it's unavoidable, and it's really, you know, it's a smaller ring. Also, like with the guard, when guys have their hands up, you know, it's not gloves. You're not going to be able to deflect a lot of shots there. But it's interesting to hear about the actual wraps themselves. Like I've watched some of the fights, and you would just expect there to be more eye pokes. You know, that's a big issue within MMA.
Yeah,
But,
I mean they really are wasting their time with their hands open, because you're going to get disqualified, and that could have been a good shot. With the bare knuckle, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a great shot. It'll still be a good shot because it's bone on bone, skin on skin. Luis Palomino, Baboon, is my fighter. He won the bare knuckle FC fighting championship at 155 pounds. We were in Mississippi. It was supposed to be in Florida, where he sells a ton of tickets, and they couldn't get it approved for audience. But yet they had 50% audience there, and it was a great experience. It was awesome. We won the fight in 45 seconds. It was great.
have you had to deal with any cuts?
Yeah, not with Baboon, no, thank God. But as just a cutman for a different organization, I worked just the blue corner, and the blue corner were the guys that were flown in to they were not the A side. They were definitely the B side. They might have been the C side. That's how bad the blue corner was that night. And they put me to work. It was great. It was great experience. Again, all the more experience for me for my boxers.
And based on, I mean, it seems like common sense, right? But within the bare knuckle, I mean, the cuts just are much more common and probably worse, right, than anything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in the time that it was a lot of them. Instead of a guy coming to corner with one, he's got three, and you're working simultaneously on three at the same time, which is super challenging, and it's just going to make me a better cornerman.
Yep. And so you're obviously have a diverse background within boxing, corners, bare knuckle, MMA, but you're also, a martial artist yourself, and, a black belt in Shaolin Kung Fu, right? Correct? And also,
we had a kind of a unique, we did San Chow, Chinese kickboxing, and I had a really strange instructors that would take us to judo tournaments and get us dropped on our head. And then that following Monday, he'd bring a judo coach and be like, okay, now I'm like, you could have brought this guy in last week. He's like, yeah, but you don't respect it like you do now. So now you respect it. Now you'll learn with an open mind. Like, yeah, an open mind and a bad back.
And did you start out in martial arts or boxing?
I did. As a 5-year-old child, I went to the Kung Fu school, and that's how it started. But he did the same thing. He took us to to amateur boxing tournaments, clueless, no idea what we were doing. And then he brought a boxing coach in from the local park district and had us go there twice a week to work on our hands. And that's how that whole thing evolved. And I had a fighter named Carl Davis Jr. that was ranked as a cruiserweight. He wanted to learn Kung Fu. He played professional football in Canada. He broke his ankle. He wanted to learn Kung Fu to get his ankle back so he could play football again. And one thing led to another, and he had knockout power. And I said, as a kickboxer in the 90s, you're not going to make any money. We switched from the boxing. He won the Chicago Golden Gloves a couple times with many knockouts. He turned pro. He never threw a punch when I met him at 26 years old. And he had a reasonable pro career. And it gave me my start really training and coaching professional fighters.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I was curious about with like the background in Chicago. And, I was reading a little bit about your time with, Andre Arlovsky as well with UFC. And
yeah, that was a great experience. He would come by us with my partner. His name was Dino, was actually his original jiu-jitsu coach. And that guy was a great coach and really got him situated. But when we worked on his hands with him, and he brought in other coaches. They had a management team that was from Russia, and they were all about like bringing somebody else in. There was a lot of cooks to spoil the soup. But Andre kept his head and kept his focus and, became the world champion. He got knocked out his first MMA fight. The kid, right. He really doesn't have a chin per se. No. He's a tough guy that's not afraid of anything. And a lot of guys get knocked out and it messes them up psychologically. Andre does not care. He comes back, better and stronger than ever. At some point you get to be too old, obviously, but it's not because he's afraid of anything. That guy is a tough guy inside and out.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of my favorite guys, like watching, especially in his younger days. And you know, when you were training with him, he was obviously very young because I mean, I think he was the youngest heavyweight UFC champion ever.
Yes.
I think I can't remember exact age, but I would say what 23, something like that. I mean,
Yeah. I think when he won the title, he was 23. Yeah.
um, so when you had him, I mean, he must have been pretty green, right? I mean, I don't know what his background was in terms of
Yeah.
mixed martial arts or.
He had some kind of Samba background, basically. He did a little bit of MMA in Russia. I told you his first, or Belarus. He got his first fight. He got knocked cold. Um, yeah, he was just big and strong and athletic. Him and Carl Davis used to spar all the time, and you know, it was at his disadvantage. Obviously, Carl was both only boxing, so while he was spending 66% of his time not boxing, Carl was only boxing, and Carl had big power. So it was very. He also sparred a lot with Fresno Kendo. So he was sparring with really high level boxers, and that really was the secret to the success. It wasn't some special mitt drill or all that nonsense. He was sparring with high level boxers, so it gave him the opportunity to be successful with his hands in MMA.